A few weeks ago, I picked up RONAPRO by Dulux and told you I'd put it to the test. Since then, I've run it across a real project, start to finish. Before you do any painting, this is very important. You want to make sure you wipe down the walls first, either with a damp cloth or a microfiber cloth. And you want to take the dust off because you want to make sure that when you paint, there's no dust on the walls because you don't want that paint sticking to the dust. You want the paint sticking directly to the drywall itself. You have multiple options here when you're looking at painting. I'm going to do a technique in here called color drenching. Now, color drenching is using the same color to paint the trim, the walls, and the ceiling, and I'm using the same finish. We're going with a nice white, bright room in here, so that is our choice. It's a designer choice as well, and that's what we're sticking with. Now, for me when I'm cutting, I'm using the brush, and I'm cutting, so this is cutting, when you're cutting the paint against another surface. So you're trying to create that straight line. Places like shoe mold, baseboard, where I'm cutting the paint against the floor, I like to tape it off. So I'm using a high quality tape that I bought from RONA that's not gonna allow the paint to drip and bleed underneath. That way it's gonna protect the finished surface, and it's not gonna make it hard to clean up after the fact. The key is to make sure you keep a nice tight line against your shoe mold or baseboard or whatever trim detail that you have. You don't want it riding up against the trim, and you don't want a gap away from the trim because then obviously paint's gonna bleed there, or you're gonna miss a part that you're supposed to paint. Another thing we want to do is protect our floors. So we're going to take this, we're going to protect the areas that we're going to paint over, and then we're going to move it around to other areas if we need to make sure we cover our floors. If we do get any paint on the finished floor while it's wet, we just take a damp cloth, wipe it off, we're fine. Our room is completely taped off, our floor is protected. Again, if we do get any paint on the floor of any small area that's exposed, we just use a damp cloth, we wipe up that paint. Now we're ready to paint. Before we get going, I've got two different paints here. I have the Dulux primer, and then I have the Dulux Elite. So first I'm gonna go around, I'm going to prime everything. My trim's pre-primed, but I'm gonna hit all the drywall. I'm gonna prime the trim anyway, hit the ceiling, and as I go around, this stuff dries quickly. So by the time I finish my last wall, I can go back with now my wall color, which is a white color, and I'm going to start painting with my wall color. I have brand new roller sleeve. I've got my new rollers, my little handy paint can. So I'm gonna pour my paint into here for when I need to do brushing. I've got my paint brush. This is to get into tough areas, tight areas. And then I also have my little whiz roller. Now I love using this for cutting. I'll use the paintbrush for all my trim, and then I'll use this to kind of roll into the beginning of the wall around all my trim. And I just find that when you're rolling the wall, it looks a little bit nicer than just brush strokes. Now here is another tip. Whenever you're opening up a new roller, there's a little bit of fleece or a little bit of lint on these rollers. So I take painter's tape and I'm going to just wrap this roller. Why I'm using painter's tape on this roller is to actually get the lint off. So these are quality rollers, but they still have lint left over from the factory. Now I don't want that lint on my walls, so use painter's tape to get it off before you start rolling. I'm gonna do the same thing for this roller. Ooh, that feels nice. And of course, as you guessed it, all of these supplies you can get at RONA. There's a lot of lint there. This is gonna save a lot of time now, once I paint, to keep those walls clean. Now it's time to start with the primer. So first, kettlebell swings. Give that a shake. Oh, it's all tight. There we go. Here's our primer. Another great tip is these paint trays. These are plastic liners for your paint trays. So if I'm priming, then I have paint color. Rather than using multiple trays, I can pull the liner, let the excess paint dry in there, peel it off once it's dry, and then have another tray for my paint color. Now this drywall is gonna be thirsty, so I wanna make sure I'm not shy with the primer. Also pour a little in here. Also trying to get that paint out of the threads there. I don't want that to build up over time, or just keep it to a minimum anyway. Before I start doing any rolling, I'm gonna go around the entire room and cut everything in. Once my cutting's done, then I'll roll into those cuts. That way I separate it into two parts, cutting and rolling. Time to cut. Primer's done, and here's my honest take on this paint so far. The coverage is excellent. It started drying and I wasn't sure. It's always when you're putting on primer, it seems a little blotchy. It went on so well. It actually went a lot further than I thought. I still have a ton of primer left, which I have a lot of house paint still, so that's a good thing. But I'm super impressed so far. Now, onto the paint color. Now, here's a good tip. When you're done with primer, if you have more priming to do tomorrow. So let's say I just want to paint one room at a time. I've got my primer roller, my primer brush here. Rather than going to wash them right now, when I have to do more primer, I'm going to cut some poly, some plastic. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to place the roller sleeve right in the middle. I'm going to wrap it around, and I'm going to pull this roller sleeve right off. Got my wet rag nearby. Now I'm going to roll this up kind of like a burrito, and I'm going to shove the ends of the plastic in that roller sleeve. Now, this will keep this paint moist, and this will keep this roller sleeve from drying out until I'm ready to use it tomorrow. Between the 4 product tiers and the rest of what RONA carries, this is shaping up to be a one-stop shop for paint on every job I run. Coverage is consistent across every coat, no patchiness, no fighting the wall. The finish dries fast, which matters when you're trying to stay on schedule. And it's holding up clean, no streaking, no flat spots. Here's what stood out the most. The price to performance ratio. You're getting pro level results without the pro level price tag. And if you're a VIP Pro member, that 10% discount on paint and accessories is already baked in. One of the things we want to do as we paint is back roll. So we'll spread the paint on the wall, and as we roll, the paint's going to go on less evenly. So when we back roll, we're going to go over those lines that we originally rolled on and make sure that the paint goes on evenly on the walls. Whew, we're done painting. I just finished rolling the ceiling, and I gotta say, RONAPRO by Dulux, I tested it, I definitely approve of it. You should go check it out. It has great coverage, it rolled on easily. This is a 1 coat of primer and 1 coat of paint. And it's not even fully dry yet, and it looks fantastic.